Welcome to STEM class. Who can tell me what STEM stands for? That's right, all together. Science, technology, engineering, and math. In this STEM game project, we will explore the mixing of oil and water. Can you think of places where oil and water may come together? At home, at the beauty shop, and in the ocean where we drill for oil below the sea. One of the most critical and important places where water and oil come together is in the ocean. Did you know that there are huge drills that go deep in the ocean to pull up the oil? Yes, and then the oil is shipped around the world for us to use in our homes and in our cars. But sometimes there's a tear or a break in the pipes or damage to a ship, and the oil ends up spilling into the ocean, making a huge mess. And sometimes when that happens, our beaches and wildlife, like birds and turtles, are covered in oil. And that stuff is hard to get off. Scientists tell us that this happens about 11 times per year. That's one more than the number of fingers that you have. Everybody show me 10 fingers and then one. Today we will mix oil and water together and see what happens when we do. We will figure out if water or oil is heavier, the meaning of density, and how they both affect what happens in the water and oil mixture. Everybody say mix it up. Very good. Class, when you see this picture and hear this sound, you need to stop and write in your journal. When you see brain, that means you need to think about what is happening and try to predict, meaning try to see in the future of what's going to happen with this project next and write it down. Then you're going to check to see if your prediction was right. If you were right, give yourself a Yahoo! And if you made a mistake, it's okay. Correct it in your journal and give yourself an okay. Now I want you to pay close attention to what is happening in this game. There's a secret word hidden. When you find it, quietly write it down in your journal. Everybody say shh. It's the password to the Steam treasure box for today only. Raise your hand if you're ready to begin. All right, great. To complete this project, you will need 4 cups of water, olive oil, 4 bowls or cups, a spoon, food coloring, and 2 eggs. Let's get started. Students, please get all the supplies you will need for your project together. Here I have my cups, spoon, measuring cup, 2 eggs, food coloring for fun, a pitcher of water, olive oil, and vinegar. Everything is sitting in trays just in case I have a spill. It's easier to clean up this way and will make Mom happy. So students, now we're going to add 1 cup of water to each bowl or cup. I've already added water to one, so I'm just going to add it to another using my measuring cup that's marked for 1 cup of water. I'm going to pour it in there. And the reason that I'm using 1 cup of water is because we're just imagining the ocean, the size of a liter of water against a milliliter of olive oil. And so now I'm going to add 5 or 6 spoonfuls of oil to one of my bowls. And I'm just going to do it very slowly. When oil first spills in the ocean, does it come out slow or fast in the beginning? What do you think about that? Put it in your journal. What is your thought about how oil comes out? Most of the time, it starts with a very slow leak into the water. That's why sometimes we don't notice. But as the spill gets bigger, the oil in the water begins to grow in size. And if you're watching very carefully, what do you see happening as the oil enters into the water? The more oil we have, what do you see happening? Put that in your journal. Kind of looks like the picture from the beginning at first, doesn't it, with the gold bubbles? What do you think is happening? As you can see, we have a large circle of oil in the bowl. As you can see, we have a large circle of oil in the bowl. Is that what you thought you saw? Does it look like the circle of oil that we see in this picture of an oil spill in the ocean? Write down your thoughts in your journal. Now we have another question. Is the oil in the water or on top of the water? And what do you see? Write this down in your journal. Does it look like the water and the oil have become one substance together, one liquid together? Or does it look like we still see water and oil? Is the oil down in the bottom of the water, or is it on top of the water? Where exactly is it? Or is it in the middle of the water? Write down in your journal what you think is happening in this glass with the mixture of water and oil. Okay, some of you may not be able to use a cup or a bowl, but we can go ahead and put our water and oil in a plastic bag. So what we're going to do is use a cup to stabilize the bag, and we're going to fill the bag up with 1 cup of water. Then we're going to add some drops of red dye to turn the water red. And after that, we're going to be adding in some olive oil. As you can see, water is clear. You can add as little or as much food coloring as your parents will allow. We're going to mix it well. I'm making sure there's no olive oil on the spoon before I mix. So we're going to mix it really, really well. Kind of makes you think of dyeing Easter eggs, yeah? And then we're going to go ahead and start dropping some oil in here. Now, friends, we did have a video on putting the eggs in the dye, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But right now, I want you to take a look at what happens when I start to add the oil into the water. What do you see down there? Do you see bubbles, circles? And how can you see them? Are they on top of the water, in the water, or at the bottom of the water? Write that in your journal. We're going to mix it well. This is kind of like baking a cake. You want to make sure you mix really, really well. Look down in there. Do you still see the oil? Look at all that oil on my spoon. Oh, wow. Now remember, the water has turned red and the oil is yellow. So usually when yellow and red come together, they make what color? Orange. So let's take a look. Let's move it around in this bag and see what happens. I see oil bubbles. Ooh, what do you see? We stirred it up really well. What do you see? Write down in your journal what you see. We can turn the water upside down, and what we will see. The oil always rises to the top, right? It always rises to the top, above the water. Why is that? Write it down in your journal. Okay, students, we lost the videos of the egg going into the dye and showing you how they separate. So we're just going to use this handy little picture here to kind of share with you what exactly happens when water, oil, and an object come in contact. Believe it or not, water is actually heavier than oil. Even if you're touching it, you might feel that water is thinner than oil because oil can be very gooey and sticky and it looks, but the weight of it, the density of it is actually less than water. So water is heavier than oil, but eggs are heavier than oil and water. So the eggs will sink down to the bottom. Now, when we get to the animals that come across oil in the water, they're usually encountering or finding the oil on the beach, where most of them are playing or sitting around, and also where you go with your family. So I hope you found the code word. It was duck,